I don't even think you need one hand to count the serious disagreements that you and Jeff and I have had over the years. I mean, it's
Yeah,
been
I mean, I don't really recall any.
right.
Because Travis is always right.
Oh, man.
my approach. Hello, everybody. It's Lite, and I'm kind of talking a little soft today because we're going to try to pull off a little surprise on Jim Watson.
Surprise.
My partner. And we buzzed him and asked him if he could come up here for about 10 minutes. I had something important to talk to him about, and so he's going to walk in, and I don't know how this is going to go. PJ, what's your prediction?
I think he'll sit down and do it.
You think he will?
Yeah.
Come on in.
Hey.
So Jim's with us right now, Jim Watson, and he's going to take a seat in the chair. You were right, though, PJ. Jim, step up to the mic real fast. This won't take long. Say hi.
Hey, how's everybody?
This is
Doing all right. How are you?
Jim Watson, my law partner, and we're Jim. We're just pre-recording, so that if you do, say something that you're ashamed of, we're always able to go back and edit that out. Okay.
Right. Or open the episode with it.
Yeah. So, hey. We're kind of talking a little bit about the firm history, kind of how we came together. We just got through talking to Amy about how one of the deals when I came over here was that I got to bring Amy and Kathy with us.
Right.
So as I recall it, back in the fall of 2011, you and Jeff had, I can't remember now if Jeff reached out to me. I think it was Jeff to say, see if I want to have lunch with you guys.
Right.
And if I recall, our first lunch was at the country club. Over at Owensboro Country Club, wasn't it? Or was
Real quick. Try not to play with that because I'll hear every single sound.
See, he's already picky. It's either at the Country Club or Colby's, one of the two. And we met for lunch.
Seemed like it's a country club, maybe.
Yeah. And I asked, we were talking, and what had, I guess, kind of precipitated the conversation was I'd had a case that you guys had sent to me, an elevator death case.
Right.
A little bit later on, we started talking about how you guys could refer cases to me, but then it was more of, well, why don't we kind of join our efforts?
Right.
And as a little bit of backdrop, PJ, Jim and Jeff had been in the title business, real estate title business, for land title business. Oh, goodness. When did you guys start?
Probably 93 or 4. We were the reverse. We were primarily, doing real estate work, and the firm was there to support that entity. And we were always, through the years, we looked for different ways to increase that, but our collective times were not devoted to that. So we went through different situations, and none of them seemed to work. And like I said, until we had that lunch at the country club. And
the law firm that Jim and Jeff had was Foreman Watson, and like he said, the firm was set up to do a lot of the work that the land title business needed, but they started seeing people would call in with miscellaneous stuff, and they just really, their focus was on making the title business run, and they didn't really have the time to handle a miscellaneous divorce here or a property dispute over here, or what was coming up, and they had tried a couple of different approaches. But the biggest challenge that we had was that because of their branding of that work and their share of the market in the land title business here in Owensboro and surrounding counties, when we first joined forces and I kind of came in as the managing partner of the law firm, it was hard to get people to think of this as a personal injury law firm. I think that was one of our biggest challenges for the first few years, don't you, Jim?
Yeah, I think so, because we were primarily real estate, and especially I think when we ran some of the billboards, when they saw our pictures on there, so what are you guys doing?
You're right. And some of their friends were like, just something I missed, because I can remember, we tried to all the initial forms of marketing, a few billboards, and we had these things printed up for when people would come to closing saying, hey, we're no longer just...
Yeah, the good thing is I think we complemented because we see a lot of people come through the office, and then we had a little bit of name recognition, and so that, I think, helps get it started.
Right. So, it's been I all the time, PJ, I get asked, because I talk to lawyers all the time, all over the state, and, you hear these things, it's like bitter feelings about law partners, and they've been stuck in these relationships for years, and I can honestly say, because of the fact that that Jim and Jeff have a focus on the land title business, but do want to see the firm work, and the firm wants land title to do well because it's a referral source. That, I mean, while we've had issues where we've disagreed maybe with outlook on things, I'm facetious here. I don't even think you need one hand to count the serious disagreements that you and Jeff and I have had over the years. I mean, it's been.
I mean, I don't really recall any.
Right.
Because Travis is always right.
Oh man.
my approach the first few years was screw 'em. We're just gonna that's good. See, that's why it works. Jim knows. But one thing you may not have known, PJ, was back in 2014-15, I went through a divorce, and one of the things you may not know about that was I remember I went and told Jim, I was like, Jim, it looks like I'm going to be getting a divorce, and I was like, I'm probably going to be sleeping down in the Ohio County office for a while until I figure out where I'm going to stay. And I think Jim, I'll remember the look on his face, like, you're really going to live in our office, And he and his wife said, look, our basement, our kids are gone. My daughters are gone off to college and stuff, and we're basically never down there. And until you find out, where you need to be, get a place to rent or whatever, just stay in our basement. And the one condition that I didn't know at the time was, but you have to watch our teenage son. And so
you had a live-in babysitter. That's awesome.
Yeah, he may exit the premises through the downstairs basement.
A lot. Yeah, and Jim said you may want to number your beers in the refrigerator. But, we talked when Amy was on here about times you look back in your life and you remember when somebody was there for you, and really pulled alongside of you. It was during, I think I was there 3 weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. But
seemed like forever.
It did seem like a lot.
No, it wasn't too long. I was thinking maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe.
I remember the one thing they charged me with was they had this cat that could open a door by itself. Am I remembering that right?
That's right.
This cat could open a door by itself, and so you had to get the cat inside and shut the.
Put the deadbolt lock.
That's right. You had to put the deadbolt lock on, and so they had me scared to death because they were like, if the cat gets out, you won't find it, and so. I was like super nervous about that, and I forgot it one time. And I came back and I was like looking all over for that cat. Luckily, it had not gotten out, but it was up underneath something. But I was scared to death about that. And then the funny story I had was, Jim at the time was that you were using these protein drinks or something.
Shakeology.
He was worried. Yeah, Shakeology. He was worried because I was losing weight because I wasn't eating and stuff. And so he said, eat these. So I was in the kitchen while he and Kim were gone to Florida or somewhere. And I went up to the kitchen to use them.
We tried to be gone the whole time he was there.
So I made this shake and I cleaned up and I was like, okay. And so then I went back downstairs and I was leaving and I saw Andrew and I said, hey, Andrew's their son. I said, hey, I was like, man, I said, I'm heading to work out. I'm going to go swim at the Heinz Center and work out. And I said, I'll be back in a little bit. And I couldn't have been gone more than 2 hours. And I swear to you, when I left, that kitchen was spotless. All right. I come back from swimming, and it looks like a football team has been through that kitchen. I mean, there's chicken wings, there's stuff all over the place. And Andrew had a couple friends over, and they had decided. And I was like, dude, I said, we got to get this cleaned up. He goes, all right, So, but it was a good time. I look back on that. Several things that are interesting. We've been able to. We've as a firm really branch out and open some new offices, and Jim and Jeff and I have been able to continue to work to try to build the name of the firm. But looking into the future, we don't see any reason this is just going to continue to grow and do the same thing.
I agree. Travis has done an excellent job in growing the firm.
The one thing that is left for me and Jim to do is that over starting last March, I got back into golf. We've yet to golf yet together, and that could be, the linchpin of the relationship is like we get back out on the golf course. So
I've been waiting for the golf balls to have our logos so we can.
Hey, we are going to be on the scorecard at Ben Hall's, and
did you work that out?
Work that out.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, we need to get some logos on the golf balls.
Yeah, because between the two of us, we'll leave a lot of balls out there on the course.
I saw something on Twitter yesterday that says it was Louisville's football coach Satterfield. It had it said on there. It says this ball was lost by Coach Satterfield, and this guy had played the University of Louisville Golf Club and had found that, and he goes, "I found this just off the edge of the 15th green, or something like that." And Coach Satterfield said, "Yeah, I let a friend of mine borrow a sleeve of my balls," or something like that. So maybe that's our next marketing idea. Just drop them all over the place and let people find them. So
I prefer let us play with them and then lose them that way.
The case that you brought him in on, I know you can't give details, but there was an elevator death here in Owensboro?
No, it wasn't in Owensboro. It was in Union County, Kentucky.
Okay.
And so at the time, there was an attorney working here. His name was Darren, and Darren had a tie to this case over in Union County.
Right?
Yeah, it was a church. And these people had used the church for a wedding. What had happened there is no confidentiality on this case, but I still won't use all the names. But This church had, as their congregation had aged, all right, this church, the main sanctuary was up about, when you see like over here at Settle, you have to go up a bunch of steps to get in, First Baptist. Those churches are kind of built up. And the sanctuary's up. It's not really a second floor, but it's kind of is,
Right.
And so as their congregation had aged, a lot of the people could not get up those steps. So some of the people decided, well, we'll install sort of a makeshift elevator to roll, no joke, to roll in their wheelchairs or that kind of thing. And so basically what they did is they framed this little area to the left of the main door. Inside that frame, built another box that they put on top of. And, if you go over here to a auto dealership and they push that little green button and it lifts your car up off the ground, it's just a hydraulic lift. It's just a shaft lift. So they took a box and built it on top of that shaft and literally had a green button and a red button. They didn't have, and it would lift people up, and then they would slide a door open, and people would roll out. It was nothing. It was nothing about it was to code. Nothing.
Doesn't sound like
nothing about it was to code. And so the horror of this case, and I'm not going to go much more into it, was a little boy had been at a reception. And his mom told him to run back and get his tux, and he had left it in the room in the church where they had changed. So he goes from the downstairs reception hall. He thinks he's in the elevator, but he was on top of the elevator. So he hits the button. He had access to the button because you could still reach it. And he reaches over and hits that button, and the thing starts to move up. And he's on top of the elevator box instead of in it. And so
that sucks.
So PJ did a good job answering that question.
Well, you did. Yeah. It was probably the best answer you could get.
But
I think it says a lot, though, that out of this entire interview so far, the one thing I took away from it was there was an elevator death.
Right, and Jim was he knew. Here's what Jim knew. We need somebody knows what he's doing, and so they did. They called me and got me involved in that one, and it was a sad case. They developed a scholarship for one of the deals was the church funded a scholarship in addition to paying the boys' estate. They funded a scholarship for kids coming out of Union County High School.
Right.
So, but yeah, that was sort of the case that kind of I started to meet people here, Tyler and it wasn't long after that we started meeting. And
so was land title what you always wanted to go into in terms of doing law work, or did you kind of fall into that? How did that come to be?
It's more falling into it. Originally, what I wanted to do was admiralty law, coming out of law school. But I went
what is that exactly?
It's the maritime, dealing with anything that happens on a navigable waterway.
Oh, okay.
Accidents or anything that occurs, kind of like workers' comp, but it's specifically tied to water and navigable waterways. But I'm from a small town, and there wasn't a whole lot of need for admiralty lawyers. Because I'm from a one stoplight town that blinks after 7, so there's not, the population's not there, and although we did have the Wabash River, but I guess technically that's still navigable. But I went to having a clerkship, and then got a job here in Owensboro. And
Was that with Bamberger?
Yeah, Bamberger, Hampshire, and then in about early '90s, I really liked real estate because we did a little bit of that for them, and I liked the idea of getting paid at the closing table, so that always helped. But Jeff and I were actually going after or meeting with some of the same clients, and that's kind of how we got together.
And you built it to a point, sold it off, and then had a dead period where you were not.
We had 3 years.
Certain time period you weren't able to do it, and then came back after that 3-year period and did it again, and are doing it again.
Right.
Yeah. Land Title has the same places that what's been nice is with Land Title sees a need in a certain area, they can open an office there, but then it allows the law firm to put sign up and have an existence there to pick up some marketing and some cases in those areas, and that's kind of been the formula we've used.
Yeah, I think they complement each other a lot.
Well, I appreciate you thinking Travis is right all the time, because that you believing in his visions allowed me to get out of you first.
No, there's a lot of times it is interesting that there are certain currents that go through all areas of law. I mean, it's just, and so a lot of times when I will tell Jim about the facts of a case, he'll say something and it'll make me think, I haven't thought about that, or and so and he and I have been, just lately in the last year, it's been interesting because we've been given the opportunity on 3 or 4 little, not little, but important business litigation issues where Jim kind of was a part of it when the transaction began, or as a part of it, and then something spurred off of that, and I've gotten involved, and so we've been able to work together, and it's been interesting as well. That's cool. Didn't do as much of that in the earlier years, but we've been doing more of that recently. So. All right, well, Jim, I appreciate. I knew that if I scheduled this or something, it would be no.
I've been preparing all morning for this.
That's right. So, anyway, this has been Law Lite, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtry at 530 Frederica Street, FWHlegal.com. Check us out on all of our platforms of social media. This is episode number 30, Big 30, and so we're moving on to being almost, getting our first year under our belt here, PJ.
Yeah, no, it's exciting and really crazy to think.
That's right. All right, see ya.